Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for Thursday, October 30th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks on both DraftKings and FanDuel. It'll be one player at each position, so point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. You definitely don't have to play all five together, but definitely a good baseline to start out as you are building out your lineups for the slate. And before I get too deep into it, just wanted to apologize for not having a video for Wednesday's slate. Had a couple other things that I did need to take care of on Tuesday night, and unfortunately was not able to get to a video, so definitely do apologize for that once again. In the morning, I'll be posting my early morning injury report, and that will have all the injury reports for all the teams that are not on back-to-backs, which the only team that will be on back-to-back is going to be the Orlando Magic for the 4-game main slate. So 7 out of the 8 teams will have their injury reports for right away, and then the Orlando Magic one will probably be coming out later on in the afternoon. And then I'll also be leaving an updated core about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock, and that will be left as a pinned comment, so definitely on the lookout for that. And then I will also be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the evening, so definitely make sure that you are checking up down in that comment section so that you do have the most up-to-date and relevant information, especially as we do head into lock. But without further ado, we'll get right into it. We're going to start off on the DraftKings side. And we're going to start off at that point guard position. I have Ryan Rollins here, who is at $5,500. So we're looking for at least 28 fantasy points out of him to pay off. Interesting matchup versus the Golden State Warriors. He's been starting for the Milwaukee Bucks at that point guard spot, playing decent-sized minutes, playing really well so far, averaging over 32 fantasy points per game. Right now, I currently have him projected for about 30. Could have a little bit upside for more, maybe a little bit downside for less. Should be a very interesting matchup for him just in general. And then we're going to move down to shooting guard. I got Pelle Larsson. I believe that's how you pronounce his name for the Miami Heat. He did start in place of Norman Powell in their most recent game. If Norman Powell misses once again, which he is already listed as doubtful, do assume that Larsson would get the start. Could ultimately end up being somebody else, but if it's him once again at $4,000, only looking for 20 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. If we look at what he's done so far in the season, hasn't had like a lot of minutes, so currently at 11 fantasy points per game, but I do have him projected for 26. And it should be a pretty interesting back and forth matchup versus the Spurs. Even if like the game goes negative and there's some blowout round, he could still get some minutes in that situation at the same time as well. And then we're going to move down to small forward. I'm going to go with Con Kneppel of the Charlotte Hornets here. $5,100, looking for at least 26 out and pay off at 5 times value. That is currently what he's averaging so far on the season. A little bit tougher matchup against the Orlando Magic. No Brandon Miller once again, so I definitely do like him once again. Currently I'm projected for 29. Could have a little bit of upside for more, maybe a little downside for less if it's not quite as good of a shooting night for him. But if it is a really good shooting night, there is definitely a ton of upside for even more. And then we're going to move down to power forward with Jaime Jaquez, who has not been starting for the Miami Heat, but he has been playing really well, playing decent-sized minutes. He's at $5,400. And we're looking for at least 27 fantasy points out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Currently averaging almost 35 so far in the season. As of right now, I am currently projected for 31. Obviously, definitely does have that strong upside for more. Gives us a little bit of leeway if he doesn't go out and have the best night overall. But if Norman Powell misses once again, he's probably going to be a guy that they're going to need to rely on pretty heavily once again. And then last but not least, at that center position, I'm going to go with Alex Sarr here. He's at $6,800. Playing really well, I believe, like the last 3 games. So we're looking for 34 out of him, pay off at 5 times value. Right now he's averaging 42. I'm not sure that he's going to get to that 42 average once again going against Oklahoma City, as it is a little bit tougher matchup. There is a little bit of potential for a blowout run, although OKC is pretty banged up at this point in time. So I do have him moderately projected for 38, which still makes him a relatively good value just in general. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $23,200 remaining, just over $7,700 remaining per player. So obviously a lot of room of flexibility to pay up. We got star players at the top like Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So definitely feel free to get to them. You might have to do a little bit more stars and scrubs approach if you want to get to 2 of them, but a good baseline to start off our lineups for the day. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on FanDuel at the point guard spot, once again, I'm going to go with Ryan Rollins. He's a little bit more expensive over here. He's at $5,900. So we're looking for at least $2,930 out of him, pay off at 5 times value. Currently averaging over 33 fantasy points per game on the FanDuel side, so he's been really efficient so far to start off the year. It's a very interesting matchup versus the Golden State Warriors. Should be a pretty back and forth game. So if he goes out, if he gets the minutes, if he plays well once again, should definitely have a lot of upside. Currently having projected for about 31. Has that upside for more, but there's a little bit of risk for that downside at the same time as well. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go Concanepo, who is at $4,800. Looking for at least 24 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Currently averaging just under that so far in the season. Goes against the Orlando Magic, a little bit tougher matchup. Obviously, on the DraftKings side, you get the 3-point bonus. Don't get that on FanDuel, but should be going out there playing decent-sized minutes as long as he's scoring the ball decently well. Should easily outperform this price tag, and I do currently have him projected for about 28, 29 fantasy points on the FanDuel side. And then we're going to move down to small forward. Once again, I do have Jaime Jaquez here. He's at $5,700, so we're looking for at least 29 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Currently averaging 34 so far on the FanDuel side. Goes against the Spurs. Should be an interesting, hopefully back and forth matchup. Definitely do like his upside in said matchup, and currently have him projected for about 31 FanDuel points. Has a little bit of upside for more, as we've seen so far on this young season. If he goes out, if he plays well, if he contributes in multiple categories. But, if he goes out, he doesn't quite get the minutes. If that shot's not going down, there is a little bit of room for downside for less at the same time as well. And then we move down to power forward. I wasn't in love with a lot of guys here. I think Draymond Green appears to be the safest one. He comes in at $5,800. Looking for 29 out of him to pay off at 5 times value, exactly what he's been averaging so far in the season. It's an interesting matchup versus the Bucks. He could always get into foul trouble going against Giannis. He could get a hit technical. He could get ejected from the game. There's a lot of factors with Draymond Green, but at this price tag, he does look like a really good value, a really safe play at this point in time as well. And I do currently have him projected for about 30 fantasy points. And if you're looking for a slightly different option at that power forward position, maybe one with a little bit more upside, cheaper price tag, and maybe a little bit less risk of leaving the game early, I should say, I would look at Aaron Wiggins, who comes in at $5,200. I do modestly have him projected for about 27 FanDuel points, so he's going to look pretty good as well, with no Chet Holmgren or Jalen Williams for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he did play pretty well in their most recent game, playing big minutes at the same time as well. But last but not least, we're going to get down to that center position. I'm going to go with Isaiah Hartenstein here at $6,100. Looking for at least 31 out of him to pay off at 5 times value, averaging just under 30 so far in the season. Couple of those games he did play this season with Chet Holmgren. That is not going to be the case for this matchup, as Chet Holmgren is out with a back injury. So I do modestly have Isaiah Hartenstein projected for 33. It looks like a really good matchup going against Alex Sarr as the opposing center and that Washington Wizards team. So definitely do like his upside in this matchup, and especially some more scoring opportunities with the pieces that are missing for the Oklahoma City Thunder just in general. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here on the FanDuel side, you have $31,700 remaining, just over $7,900 remaining per player. So a good amount of money remaining, whether you want to pay up for some of those star stud players, like I kind of mentioned on the DraftKings side, your Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your Victor Wembanyama, your Giannis Antetokounmpo. You can even talk about Steph Curry and LaMelo Ball at the same time as well. So there are quite a few good high-priced options out there just in general. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel for Thursday, October 30th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning injury report. They have the injury reports for 7 of the 8 teams that will be in play. The lone team that will not have that right away is going to be the Orlando Magic, who are playing on a back-to-back. Do expect that we get their injury report, probably like mid-afternoon, probably like 4 p.m. Central Time at the latest. So we'll be posting that at the same time as well. And then I will also be leaving an updated core about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock. That will be left as a pinned comment. If there are no changes to the core at that point in time, I will just leave a pinned comment that says no changes to the core at this point in time. If there's any other additional changes after that point in time, we'll leave them as a reply to that pinned comment as well. And then I will also be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the evening. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. I definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Greg Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have NBA DFS in terms of the core picks, typically Monday through Friday. Once again, do apologize for missing Wednesday's slate. And then I also do have my NFL DFS core pick video dropping once a week. That typically comes out on either Friday or Saturday. And that does vary a little bit week to week, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and Prize Picks if you're a brand new user to either one of those sites. When you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks, it's a 100% match up to $100, and then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,000, so some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS for Thursday, October 30th.